The fourth chapter, called Rati's Lament, will describe the heartbreak of Rati for her dead husband, Kama. At first it appears this chapter does not belong in the love story between Shiva and Parvati, because this chapter is from the perspective of another character, that of Rati. But in fact, this chapter is the sum and solution of the entire story. This chapter, on the surface, focuses on the unbearable presence of grief, which is the inevitable end result of following opposition. Rati is the embodiment of passion and desire, and Kama is the embodiment of pleasure and love. Their union and separation are meant for us to see the world differently. The death of Kama and the lament of Rati are allegorical. Love for things is what makes life enjoyable, and so if love were to die, we would have no passion for anything at all. Our life would not be enjoyable. It would be miserable and unbearable, which is how Rati is portrayed. We see the meaning of loss by witnessing the loss of love to passion. On a more subtle level, the chapter focuses on the feminine perspective, which is one that sees the world in an alternative way of opposition. As a servant of the goddess, Kalidasa will show that the true end to opposition is to be aware of this feminine perspective, which includes all perspectives. This is because that is how the goddess sees the world, as a union of all things. Even though the individual parts may be in apparent conflict with each other, and the opposition has its place in the world, we need to look beyond it and see the world as many presences inside this greater presence of one existence. Whoever follows the path of opposition will inevitably encounter grief faster than anyone else. Grief is the ultimate result of opposition because it can stop anyone in its path. We can oppose it all we like, but when faced with its presence, we will crumble. The presence of grief cannot be ignored by anyone. That is its quality. When grief arrives, it will come so suddenly that we will no longer recognize our place in the world, but only recognize the heaviness of a growing emptiness. Then Kama's wife, who had been powerless, senseless, was woken by her fate to begin feeling the unbearable anguish of a woman who has been newly widowed. Things come and go in our consciousness, growing to be important or not, due to our awareness of their qualities. Things that we ignore or forget become like dreams. Their presence is somewhere out there, but not near enough to focus on them. But they do come into focus when we experience their loss. Absence is a presence in itself that brings things back from a dreamlike state to being fully present before our attention. Coming awake again, she looked all around with her eyes open, but unable to help, not finding the sight lost to her forever her beloved. Kalidasa devotes this entire chapter to grief, for the purpose of countering the traps of being an unthinking puppet under the powerful feeling of opposition. The way out of being led by opposition is to remember that grief is waiting at the end of that path. We will cause grief to everyone, including ourselves. Opposition is the quality of how men view the world. What is the quality of how women view the world? It is absorption. Like the earth that absorbs the seed, giving it shelter and allowing its potential to emerge. Kalidasa mentions how Rati covers herself and wants the earth to share her pain. The sharing is opposite to opposition, but instead of feeling alienated by our surroundings, we feel sympathetic. It is by feeling the heartbreak of others that we become conscious of how powerful grief is. This sharing of pain is the way out to everyone's misery. Sympathy is how to prevent more misery to spread. We should begin with sympathy, and our path to growth and understanding will change. Then, with a new and fiercer pain, rolling on the ground and covering her breasts with the dust, her hair wild, She grieved as if the earth could share her suffering. Although opposition is the masculine way to see the world, it is not only men who can be trapped in this perspective. Because we are all part of existence, we share different qualities on different levels. Men can understand and be aware of the feminine energy in them, just as women can understand and be aware of the masculine energy in them. We have in us what pushes us to oppose and to join together. Your body, shining so beautifully, all women would compare their lovers to you, has shrunk down to this without me breaking apart. Yes, women can have cold hearts. Because we can all be attached to things, we all experience the heartbreak of losing the things we are attached to. We cannot oppose the power of this grief, no matter how tough and strong we think we are. The moment we are robbed of what we love, grief can destroy our whole world. Where have you run to and left me, whose life rests in you? Our love cut off in a moment, as a lotus can be left when a flood of water breaks through a dam. The union of love and passion makes us attentive to how we are seen and how we see the world. Instead of hurting others, we become kinder and softer in our dealings with everyone. Reverence and obedience come easily when love and passion are present. Without them, reverence and obedience feel empty. We can never experience the joy of showing and receiving reverence and obedience without love and passion. You have never done a thing to hurt me, nor have I ever gone against your will. Why do you deny, with no reason, the sight of you, to Rati, who is mourning for you? It is inevitable that we experience grief, because we are destined to join and unite with what gives us pleasure and desire. Love itself is joined and united with pleasure, so that when we are with what we love, we experience pleasure. But if love and pleasure were to be separated, would we ever find pleasure in anything? I will follow you on the road. You have just begun traveling to the beyond. Everyone here is deprived through fate, since the pleasure of those who have bodies rests on you. Love and passion make people want to change their situations. If they are unhappy, they will seek what makes them happy, because of love and passion. With those in mind, a person gains courage and becomes resourceful, trying to find what they are passionate about. Without love, no one will actually be courageous, and we will feel trapped in our predicaments. Along the streets of cities covered with the blackness of the night, who else but you, love, can guide the women, frightened by thunder, to their lovers' houses? The great joy of love and passion creates the feeling of ecstasy. It is a drunkenness that is flowing from the soul and makes people feel blissful. Life becomes more beautiful, and people live in the moment, not worrying about being able to explain their joy to others. Without love and passion, this bliss cannot exist. Even if they roll their reddened eyes and stumble over words at every step they take, the drunkenness through wine of young beautiful women is meaningless now without you. Without love and passion, the magic of life seems absent. There is no more ceremony to mark events as important. There is no more yearning for sharing a breathtaking event with others. These things that make life magical will seem like stories that are exaggerated. There will be no reason for us to get up and go out into the world. Your good friend, the moon, knowing that your beauty is now only a legend, will grow out of darkness sadly, O bodiless God, without lovers to welcome his rising. And yet, even if this misery that comes from grief makes us feel disconnected, we see that the world contains compassion, because there are others who do understand the secret of joy. There are others who live life together, sharing their workloads, because they have love and passion for each other and for the work they do together. It is such beings who can sympathize when one is grieving. It is such beings who can welcome us into their circles so we can heal. That row of bees, used so often for the string of your bow, seems to mourn along with me in tones of compassion for my great sorrow. If we lived in true opposition, we would be opposed even to ourselves. We would be opposed to gaining knowledge, to improving, to what is outside of us, and absorb it for the sake of growing. It is love that makes opposition go away, so that we can love ourselves and love what is outside of ourselves. Love unites the inner part of us with the outside world. When I remember your loving, requested with the bow of your head, and us along trembling in embraces, I have no peace, God who makes men remember. Rati is devastated, yearning for her life to end, so she could reunite with her husband. In her anguish, she calls out for help to her husband's dear friend, the spring. Hearing her calling out for help, he sympathizes with her pain and comes quickly to console her. Then, her grieving words striking his heart as if they were poisoned arrows, the spring made himself appear before her to comfort Rati in her suffering. Only when a person knows someone came to help her can she let grief out completely. It is so dangerous that it can destroy a person who is alone. Rather than opposing the sharing of pain, we must fulfill our duty and share the pain that is too much for one person to bear. Seeing him, she burst into tears and beat herself until her breasts were all pain, for when your own people appear, sorrow breaks through as if a gate has opened. If we don't realize that opposition causes grief, we will realize it when Kalidasa shows that passion and desire can be separated from love. If we have desire for things, it is because we love them. If love were to be separated from what we desire, we would no longer desire. Leading a life based on opposition will eventually remove all desirable things from life, one way or another. It could be someone else desiring what we have and taking it from us, or that we get bored from what we were once passionate about. Moonlight leaves the moon, and when a cloud vanishes, so does the lightning. That women should follow their husbands is shown in this world, even by things that have no feelings. All things are bound together in nature, so if a part is missing, the whole is changed. Heartbreak makes life unbearable, and so a soul yearns to vanish. Heartbreak has an end, however, and healing is part of the cycle. Healing is made possible because there is compassion present since the creation of the world. While Rati stood determined to shed her body, a voice spoke from the sky, like the first rain taking pity on a fish trapped in a pool that is drying away. A revelation is given to Rati to make her understand the confusing mysteries of how the world was made. Why do we love only to find heartbreak? Why do we devote ourselves only to feel lost? There is a layer of disorder present in the origins of the entire creation. This force of disorder is attached to love itself, because it causes disturbance and separates things apart, even if it also unites and rejoices. This ambivalent power of love is explained in a story about Brahma, who fell in the desire to unite with his own daughter, but realizing the horror of such a possibility, condemned all desire and love to eventually end, so that the cycle of death and life may repeat. The story merely shows how that force of uncertainty and disorder was present from the beginning, and it needs to be guarded against by everyone. There is a benefit to opposition after all, only when it helps staying in the proper perspective. Once, Brahma, his senses stirred, felt desire rising in him for his own daughter. He forced down that urge, but cursed Kama for it, and this has been the result. The Creator himself shares the story to take the shame and suffering away from Rati. The Creator promises that when things are set right again in this cycle of events, when Shiva reunites with Parvati, that everything good will be restored. Sadness will give way to happiness. Grief from separation will give way to joy of reunion for all of us. When Shiva is drawn to Parvati for her tapas and leads her around the marriage fire, then the god, his own happiness secured, will give Kama back his body again. Though we may see our experiences in one way because of the intensity of our emotions, reality in fact is multifaceted. The presence of grief and joy coexist, and so does the presence of pain and relief. Whoever understands this multiplicity of presence can live his existence at peace. Entreated by the god of righteousness, Brahma said this, setting a term to the curse on Kama. Clouds and sages are both sources of lightning and of life-giving rain. The Creator shares this truth with every grieving person, giving us hope not only that the intensity of our grief will dissipate, but of actually reuniting with our lost loved ones in a new creation. This truth makes even the pain of life lessen in its presence, and we can see that life and all of existence remains beautiful. And so, beautiful woman, keep his body safe for the bed of your lover. Though the sun drinks up its water, our river will flow again when the rains come. How great is relief after pain! How great is warmth after cold! How great is satisfaction after hunger! How greater, then, is the person who helps one who is suffering, cold and hungry. If we all lived like this, we would find strength in each other and be at peace, instead of always seeing each other as enemies. Let us choose to live in this better world. In this way, some invisible being softened Rati's firm decision to die. In the spring, because he believed in that voice, gave her strength with pleasing, well-chosen words. We can share our suffering and our grief, and we can hope that relief and joy will follow. This story shows that we don't have to feel like we are at war with existence, and that the presence of hope changes everything. And Kama's wife, thin with misery, waited for her misfortune to pass, like a crescent of the moon by day, pale as dust, its light gone, waiting for the dark.